Welcome to the Glen Ferris Inn, dining with Dan and Becky. And tonight, as my guest, is Justin Dozer and his wife Teresa and their daughter Hannah. And welcome to the Glen Ferris Inn, and glad to have you all here. Justin is one of my project managers that works for Dan Hill Construction Company, and his wife works for Home Health Care, and we've worked together several years, and we enjoy having them over here to eat.
Well, we appreciate it.
Well, tonight I think Becky's having something special for us tonight, some Mexican type food. She has a salad out here already. It's a little different procedure tonight. She's given us these salads here. Well, let's go back in the kitchen and see Becky and have her explain to us what all we're having for dinner tonight.
Hello, welcome back to Dining with Dan and Becky at the Glen Ferris Inn, and welcome to the kitchen of the inn. We're preparing Dan a dinner for him and his guests, and tonight the menu is chili con queso with homemade nachos, a black bean salad, Mexican chicken, refried beans, Mexican rice, and our favorite, or one of our favorites, pepper jack grits. And we will have for dessert apple caramel burritos with ice cream. And our bread tonight, instead of light rolls, is going to be Mexican cornbread. So let's go ahead and get started. You all know that during the year that the Glen Ferris Inn holds certain feasts with a theme. For example, we will do an Asian feast, a Cajun feast, a country cookout, an Italian feast, a Mexitex feast. And our Mexitex feast is coming up soon, so we decided that it would be nice to have a Mexican dinner for his guests. So now, as always, you look at your time involved. The only dish here that is going to take an enormous amount of time is the Mexican cornbread, because you have to bake it so long. So let's go ahead and get started on that, and then we will see what we are going to do next. So, for the Mexican cornbread, the first thing that you need is sugar creamed with melted butter, and ours is separated a little bit. In order to make it go a little faster, I combine things and hope that you can follow along. If you have a question on any of our recipes or procedures, feel free to call or to send an email at glenferrisin@yahoo.com, or just write me a note. So we're going to add eggs. I'm going to add 2 at a time and beat between each addition. And add the other 2. So far in our bowl we have got our sugar mixed with melted butter and our eggs. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add this bowl, which contains cheddar cheese, pepper jack cheese, and creamed corn. And all it is just a regular can of creamed corn, where if you do not have that and all you have is whole kernel corn that is frozen, feel free to defrost it, grind it in a food processor with a little bit of heavy cream. Okay, so now don't stint on your pepper jack cheese, you need it. Oh, that also has hot chilies in it. So we're going to mix that really well. So now, so far we had butter, sugar, eggs, creamed corn, pepper jack cheese, cheddar cheese, and 1 can of chili cubes. Now lastly, we have all of our dry ingredients. Now the dry ingredients consist of flour and cornmeal, baking powder, and salt. Now we're going to add this a little bit at a time and mix it in. And when that is mixed in, we will add our next bit of flour and cornmeal. This is probably one of the best recipes of Mexican cornbread I have ever ran across. I have fixed quite a few. Some of them were so hot and spicy you couldn't stand them. This one is medium spicy. The cheese in it, once it melts, makes it really, really moist. And I just don't think you can ask for anything better than a moist, rich cornbread with just a little bit of a bite. So, here we are. If you look at your batter, you can see the cheddar cheese, the cream corn, and the chilies, and of course, the cornmeal and the flour. All right, we're going to put this into a baking pan. We are going to spray it with our vegetable spray. I tried to stay away from anything olive oil when you're dealing with the bread. I just don't care for the taste of it with your breads. I like it for vegetables. So, we're going to empty this. And spread it out. I hope Danny's guests like spicy food tonight, because I will have one or two dishes that are not so spicy. Make sure you lightly beat it or pound it on your counter or your prep area to remove any air bubbles that may be inside and to make sure it's level. Then we are going to put it in your oven at 350. You are going to set your timer for 1 hour. So let me clean up my mess a little bit, and then we will get started on our next dish. I'll be right back. All right, guys, we have already made the Mexican cornbread because it takes the most amount of baking time, and we have made our salad, the black bean salad, because it needs to marinate in the refrigerator in order for all of the flavors to blend. So the next thing that we need to think about doing is the chili con queso. Now what that is a marvelous dip made out of cheeses, tomatoes, chilies, onions, and a variety of spices. Now at the house, when I prepare this, I put it in a crock pot and just let it slow cook. So what we're going to do here is, wrong burner, I do that all the time here. Or not. There we go. I'm going to just put it on low to slow melt the cheese. So what we have, let me pull out the recipe. Our latest new cookbook that my sister Donna and I have been working on for some time. This is the cookbook that has all of the recipes of all of the feasts that we have ever done. So we want the chili con queso, that would be in the appetizer section. I have an excellent recipe for southwestern egg rolls, and I just let it go because I'm just fixing too many good things, and they're kind of hard to fix. It has like 25 ingredients in it. So what we are going to do is put in our Velveeta cheese and let it heat up. All right. Now, this Velveeta cheese is cut into blocks. It's a very soft processed cheese, so it should melt easily. I was afraid that I wouldn't have time for this to cook in a slow cooker. And up at the house when my grandkids come and we're doing a Mexican night, I do this. And then I fix them a spinach and artichoke dip. And we don't make our nachos from scratch, but what we do is buy some nice nachos. And then I fix a prairie fire dip because the parents like something with a little bit of bite, whereas the kids don't. And by the way, that was green onions. And all that is for a little bit of look. Tomatoes and chilies. Okay, we're going to mix this up. And if anything keeps your cheese from sticking, look at it, how nice it's already melting. It will be this. So I'm going to turn that fire up just a hair. All right, let me look at the recipe. Let me see, Velveeta cheese, tomatoes and chilies, green onion, your spices. The green onion I put in was supposed to be used as a garnish, so I'm only going to add about half of this to it. And we use those as a garnish. How about that for a compromise? Now make sure you stir this often. My mouth is already watering. And last I have my spices. This is ground coriander, ground cumin, mixed together. So we are going to add this. Now, since there is nothing just purely liquid I can add this to and stir in, or nothing that's a pure solid that I can add this to and stir in to make sure it's uniform, take this and barely sprinkle it across the top until the surface is covered more or less uniformly. Boy, I did good on that. Look at that big bunch. All right, we're going to stir that in. Oh my goodness, to have had smell-o-vision. That is going to be one of my goals on achieving that before this is over. Mouth is watering. I don't know if I'll make it this long. And we still have pepper jack grits to make, which also smells just as good. All right, now all this needs to do is melt, and then you stir it until everything is evenly distributed in your mixture, and then we're ready to go. So let me read the recipe to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. All right, cheese, tomatoes and chilies, green onions, coriander, cumin, hot pepper sauce. Now it says that's just a dash. Have you ever seen those wee little tiny measuring spoons? That is for a dash, a smidgen, and a pinch. Well, I have several sets of them just so that my grandkids can get a kick out of them when we're talking about measuring. A dash is generally just like this. Some people, their dash is a whole lot more than others. And I always try to go on the low side, because you can always add more, but you can't take it out. So what I'm going to do is pass this to Bruce, and I'm going to let him finish melting and stirring. You do not add another thing to it, but it has to be melted and evenly distributed throughout the mixture. And then we will be ready. We will serve our homemade nachos with the chili con queso and a traditional salsa. So I will be right back. You guys go get you a cup of coffee. right, the next item on the menu that we're going to be preparing is Mexican rice. Now with our Mexitex feast, we have several different types of rices that we have offered from time to time. We have a Spanish rice, which my uncle Clemente Palumbo, who was raised and born in Mexico City, when he got married to my aunt, he brought us that recipe, and we use it quite often, but it's rich in meat. And I consider if you have Spanish rice, you don't need another meat for your dinner. And then Danny's sister, Carolyn Guevara, brought us a recipe for Mexican rice, which is really, really good, and it's meatless. So if we're having a high protein meat for dinner, then I do not do the Spanish rice, I do the Mexican rice. So let's find the recipe. This one is in Grandma Kitchen, that cookbook that we have, and it is under vegetables and side dishes. So here we are, Mexican rice by Carolyn Guevara. You have your rice, and you are going to brown in a blend of olive oil and vegetable oil until it has turned colors. And if you want, you can go ahead and cook it until it becomes light brown. It's easy to burn, so don't walk away from it, she says as she walks away. Anyway, all right, then we need water. Now, you are very familiar with the recipe where whatever amount of rice you use double water. But that's going to be the last thing we add. It's a good thing I read the recipe. All right, we're going to stir this. Then we're going to add our onion. Boy, that onion is potent. Hear it sizzle? Now you want your onion to cook until it becomes transparent, remember? And after we've added the onion, you want to add your green pepper. And we minced ours rather finely because it takes more time to cook green pepper than it does onion. And we do not want this, when we serve it, having semi-raw chunks of green pepper. You want everything done. So we're still going to let this brown. Oh, there's a big piece of onion. Let me get that out. And then we have got salt, pepper, garlic powder, and cumin in this, and they're all ground. So we're going to add that. Now this time you can stir it up rather easily because you haven't added partial liquids to it. Remember, you want your seasonings to go in when it's dry or in all of the liquids. We have one recipe here with one of our feasts that it's roasted root vegetables, and it uses a great deal of thyme and salt and pepper. And if you do not mix that in with your butter and your olive oil, it just never blends right and stays on top, and you get a bite of a strong spice instead of it being mildly seasoned throughout, and you don't want that. So all right, we're going to stir this. I know that all of you have gone in Mexican restaurants at one time or another and had that marvelous Mexican rice. And it gets its color from 1 cup of tomato sauce. whereas Spanish rice, it uses a lot of tomatoes in it. It uses tomato and tomato juice. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is add our water. Now, it's 1 part rice, 2 parts water, and then all of the other ingredients that is called for in your particular recipe. And it very seldom deviates from that. Make sure all of your rice is down. Now, when you go to stir it, just stir it once and then leave it alone. Remember, your rice has a hole on it, an outside covering that holds all of the gluten in. When you break that by stirring it excessively, then all of that gluten comes to the outside and it all is glued together, just as if you had made chunks of rice stuck together with wallpaper paste. Now, what you want to do is, once this boils, you want to turn the fire off, cover it with a lid or aluminum foil or whatever, and let it sit off of the burner until all the liquid is absorbed. And once all of the liquid is absorbed, you need to taste it. And if it still has just a little bit of crispness or firmness in the center of the rice kernel, you need to add a little bit more water and let it cook again. Okay, so we're just going to let that heat. When it starts boiling, we're taking it off. We've done the chili con queso, we've done the black bean salad, the Mexican rice, the Mexican cornbread, and let me find an ink pen to mark this off, and I do that at the house too. Chili con queso, black bean salad, Mexican rice, Mexican cornbread. So we're more than halfway through. So the next thing we are going to do is the refried beans, then we'll do the Mexican chicken, then we'll do the apple caramel burritos, then the pepper jack grits, and last, the nachos. So let me get this in the dishwashing area, straighten up my mess a little bit, and I will be right back. Welcome back. Our timer is going off for the cornbread. So let's turn off the oven, pull it out, and see what we have got here. Oh my goodness. Just look at that. Beautiful golden brown. Pulling away from the edges. Doesn't shake. So the last thing we have to do is the toothpick taste. Give me 1 second to get a toothpick. When your toothpick inserted in the center and you pull it out and it comes out dry without any wetness on it, your product is done. Now, I always want mine pulled away from the edges. It cannot shake, it has to be solid. This is perfect. So let's get this over here under the heat lamp, so it'll still be nice and warm when Dan and his guests arrive. So, next thing we're going to do is prepare the apple caramel burritos. So let me go get my supplies and I will see you here in less than 2 minutes. All right, we're going to go ahead and put together our caramel apple burrito. Now, this is simply apples that have been partially cooked. The sauce in it has been thickened with cornstarch and sugar a little bit put in it. And then we melted caramels on it. And these caramels are simply caramels that you buy in a store wrapped in cellophane. And we're going to use these to make a caramel sauce to go over them when this is finished. Now, I'm going to start out with 1/2 cup of filling. Now remember, this is apples, a little bit of sugar, thickened with cornstarch, and then caramel melted in it. So we have got half a cup of filling, and that may be too much. Now you are going to take this and treat it as if it were an egg roll. You're going to fold over the top, then fold over the right side, then the left side, and then all you are going to do is roll this up, and we do have too much. So let's just get rid of that. And there we are. Now you're going to take that and deep fry it about 5 minutes before you serve it. I just wanted to get them finished. So now we know a half a cup is too much. Now I have made plain egg rolls. I have made Southwestern egg rolls. I have made Reuben egg rolls. And most of the time I use a half a cup of filling, but it's too much on this one. So we're going to take this and put it to the side. We need about 6 of these, but let me fix 1 or 2 more, and then thank God for Bruce, I'm going to pass it to him and let him finish making 6 or 7 of them. Now that's going to be too much, is it? All right. This tastes pretty good, guys. You should try it. Most people do not mess too much with apples, with caramel. Now what I would like to do, now you're going to fold it over on the top, then fold the right side over, the left side over, all the way down, and then you are going to simply roll it up into a burrito. Most of the wrappers I buy for my egg rolls are egg roll wrappers, and so you can use less. I have the Southwestern egg roll I use a tortilla for, but it is the largest one I can find. And then what we do when we go to serve them, we cut it in half. All right, fold the top down, fold the side over, the other side over. Now this is a good amount. And then we're just going to roll it up and form our burrito. So now what we're going to do is deep fry these 5 minutes before we serve them. We're going to put ice cream with it, vanilla, and drizzle a homemade caramel sauce on the top of it. So I'm going to ask Bruce to finish this, and we will go ahead and start our Mexican chicken, which is why we are doing this, because I just dearly love it. Lightly cook our chicken, and I'm using a flat top grill. At the end we just grill them. Now remember, we're making Mexican chicken, which has a little bit of a spicy sauce and then pepper jack cheese on it. But first you want to grill your chicken. This has been defrosted, washed thoroughly, refrigerated. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, and 1 more. I think that this is probably my most favorite chicken dish of all times. All right, now the next step in the procedure is that you're going to take ranch dressing, fully prepared. Let me get a spoon or a spatula here. Now, I don't care what recipe you're using. If it calls for ranch dressing, it has to be fairly good. And we're going to mix it with a mild salsa. If you want more of a bite, you can use the spicy salsa. And make sure that it is mixed uniformly, because after your chicken is browned, we're going to add this to it, and we're going to more or less cook it in it. Now look at that. Isn't that just a very, very nice sauce to cook anything in? Okay, let me get tongs to turn our chicken. Oh, I need to grow about 5 inches. It's beginning to brown. Now remember, this does not have to be all the way cooked at this point. All we're going to do is brown it, and that is not doing, nor is that. And then we are going to smother it in our sauce and let it continue cooking. So why don't I just turn this up a little bit more. And then the last thing we're going to do is add our pepper jack cheese to it. So let me go ahead and get that out. Now pepper jack cheese is just more or less a white American cheese that is filled with different chopped peppers, mainly jalapenos. Now one cannot complain about that at all, especially if you're doing a Mexican dinner. I hope Dan brings his Tums tonight. All right, let me switch this over. And you just need to keep moving these until all of them are slightly browned. They do not have to be browned all the way. And as soon as you get them browned on both sides, we will finish our procedure and let it simmer while we fix our refried beans and our pepper jack grit sauce. Oh, we have to fry our pepper jack grits too. I can't forget that. Now all these are just cheese slices of the pepper jack cheese. They're easier to work with. It's kind of time consuming to have to deal with slicing all of them. So let's check on the chicken. This one is not quite brown. That one is, it doesn't need much browning. Just enough to where you know that it has cooked. Because once we add that sauce to this, we're going to let it cook till it reaches 160, 180. That one is getting lightly browned. Oh yeah, I have that one in the back really high. There we are. Almost ready. Let me move this one up here. Okay, I've turned on the other two burners to slide this over on because once we have it more or less simmering in the ranch dressing and the salsa, we don't need to be watching it so much. In fact, we're going to cover it with foil and let it cook that way. So, all right, let's add this. Just completely cover it. There is no way that you can mess this up. And I do not even know how we got this recipe or where it was from. And someone decided to try this, and then someone else decided to try that. And by the time we combined them all, this is what we got. And it was good. It served us well. Let me get my turners or my oven mitts. Now all we have to do is simmer this like you would fried chicken at your house. Turn it down. Turn that off. Okay, let me get a sheet of foil and then we'll be ready to go to the fried beans. All right, I'll be right back. Cover this. We are going to let it simmer the same as you would simmer chicken that you had fried, browned off, and then put in your oven to finish baking. So let's get everything together for our refried beans. And then the last thing we have to do, guys, is, we have to do our nachos. But the pepper jack grits, which are all but ready, and then the nachos. So that's good. So let me get rid of my mess and get the refried beans. I'm gonna put this here to use, and this we're gonna need, and this goes in the kitchen. I'll be right back. Okay, we're ready to do our refried beans. So what we're gonna start out with is pinto beans that have been well cooked. Notice how thick they are. And we are going to put them in a blend of olive oil and vegetable oil. Now, they are traditionally made with bacon grease. I chose not to do that. So you are going to take an old-fashioned potato masher and you are just going to mash them to pieces over and over and over. Now these beans were slow cooked on the back of the stove for about 4 hours, if not longer today. You want them to be relatively free of juice, broth, or whatever you want to call it. We always called it bean soup. I do not know. In fact, when I found out years later that there's an actual recipe for bean soup, I was just stunned. I had never heard of it. Now we put beans in a lot of soups, but okay. Now when we're doing our Mexitex feast, we make such a large quantity. We have like a 5-gallon mixing bowl that Bruce and Frank put our beans in it and lets them mash them. But I just won't do that for just a little bit. All right, now once I get these fairly well mashed, I'm going to stir them up. And then I'm going to do it again. Now you want to get all the whole beans mashed as good as you can. It doesn't have to be nothing. It doesn't have to be pureed. You want it to be a little bit chunky, in fact. All right, now that we have that done, we are going to add onions. And garlic. My last Mexican feast that I fixed my granddaughters and my daughter and her son up at the house, I did not have my recipes up there because at that point my sister Donna and I were still working on them. We're planning on doing a Feast at the Inn cookbook using all of our recipes that we've ever used at the feast. And I just didn't want to stop what I was doing and come down here and get the book. So I thought, well, I'll get on the internet. So I did, and I found several nice refried beans recipes. And I thought, now I don't remember our recipe having this in it or that in it. And I thought, well, you're probably mistaken. So I went ahead and fixed them. And they were so spicy and hot that not a person in the family would eat them. So I make sure now that I plan ahead and have the right recipe for whatever I am going to cook. So we have our refried beans. that are refrying right now. I'm going to turn this up just a hair. We have got it mashed fairly well. We have our onions, we have our garlic, and I can see why no one would want to mash by hand a 5-gallon mixing bowl of these beans. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to let this simmer, stir it from time to time. Let me turn it around, and we're going to check our chicken. Oh, just look at that, guys. If you all just knew how much I love this stuff. All right, we're going to turn it to make sure that sauce gets on the top as well as the bottom. And I think I can probably turn it up a little bit more. Oh, just a hair more because we want it to be a little thicker. But we sure don't want it to burn. Whoops. And there we are. Let's get this over. Okay. All right, let's stir our refried beans. Now we are going to garnish these with green onions, tomatoes, and cheese. But we want it to cook just a little bit more, so those onions, and I may go ahead and mash them a little bit more, I don't know. But we're going to leave that here, let it cook, and let me get the stuff for the pepper jack grits, and I will be right back. All right, we're going to start our pepper jack grits. Now, we have made the grits overnight because it takes a while for them to set up, and this one hasn't set up too well, I'm sorry. And then we're going to dip them in flour. Then we are going to do pepper jack grit chunks, I believe, from the looks of this. And after you've got them in flour, you are going to drop them in the grease. Now our grease is liquid shortening and olive oil. We want to fry them until they're crisp, and this may not work out. Sometimes, depending on the humidity, just fall into pieces on us. I'm so sorry. Dan's going to be sorry too because this is one of his favorite meals. Okay, I'll be more careful this time. And we're going to turn it, coat it with the egg, and then we're going to pick it up and slide it into the flour and try not to break it this time. Then we're going to toss it in the flour, pick it up, and put it in our skillet. Now, if you have a little home deep fryer, do not ever fry these pepper jack grits in it. Just fall into pieces. Oh well, we'll try. It breaks apart into just little minuscule pieces like it's doing here, and it just ruins your oil. So, I don't know, I guess the air pressure is off today. At least that's what I blame it on. I just don't think these are going to work out, guys. I think I'm just going to not serve them. I'd rather not serve them as to serve something that's a mess. I'm sorry. Next time, we'll serve pepper jack grits. All right, the last thing we have to make are our chips. You are going to make or buy a flour tortilla. Now for your nachos, you can use corn base tortillas or the flour. I prefer the flour. Then you're going to take a pizza cutter and you're going to cut them in triangles. And these we are going to fry. Now we're going to put them in the deep fryer, so you won't see my doing it. I'm sorry, but you get the idea. Now you can use the ones that are in the refrigerator like I have here, or the ones that are in the shelf and are more or less dried. It doesn't matter. And if you want the corn base, you just have to get a little bit sharper pizza cutter to do it. Well, that didn't work out too well. Now don't try to stack these. All right, we're going to cut it across, then cut it into 3 wedges. We're going to cut it across and then into 3 wedges. That one was pretty good. And I am going to take these and drop them in the deep fryer, and I'll show you what I look like, and then I will ask Bruce to finish the others so I can go visit Dan and his guests in our Riverview dining room. So let me get over here. Our temperature in the deep fryer is 350 degrees. To keep these from sticking together, I'm going to drop them in one at a time. They will be done when they float, and boy is it bubbling, and they're coming up. Okay, I'm going to continue cutting. Bruce is going to continue frying, and as soon as we get some that are lightly browned, we'll show you what they look like. Bruce, do we have any ready to show them? These are the stickiest tortillas that I have ever tried to cut into nachos. Ooh, that is really sticky. Okay, and there we are. Let me get these in a bowl and show you what they look like. Now look at this. Aren't those just beautiful nachos? A little bit more fluffy than what a corn nacho is, but I really like them, and our guests like them. The only times we really serve these is when we're doing a Mexican dish or having a Mexican feast. So let me get these all back to Bruce, then I am going to go out in the dining room and visit with Dan and his guests. So I will be seeing you there.
Welcome back to the Dining with Dan and Becky. Becky, what do we got tonight?
So what we have to start with is chili con queso with homemade nachos. And then we have salsa in case you do not care for the chili con queso. Okay. And we have Mexican cornbread, we have black bean salad, Mexican chicken, refried beans, and Mexican rice.
I see.
And our dessert, you'll never guess.
Mexican something.
Nope. But it is, but the word Mexican isn't in it.
Is it chili ice cream? Or?
No.
Well, yeah, you got me. What is
caramel apple burrito with ice cream and caramel
apple
sauce.
Burrito?
Burrito.
Okay, that should be different.
Well, yes.
Okay, all right. So now, to eat this, what we have here now, you can dip your chip in these, or you can eat the salad.
Well, what I'm going to do is dip the chip, and then I'm going to put a little bit of salad on top of the dip.
Okay, all right.
Because I'm strange that way.
All right, well, let's dig in here, folks, and let's see what it tastes like.
All right, I'm going to grab me some. Now, these are
I'm going to follow her lead.
homemade nachos out of raw flour dough, so they don't quite look the same as the nachos you buy in the store, but they're much better. And I need to warn you, the chili con queso is a little bit spicy.
It's not too bad so far.
Good.
Hasn't gotten me yet. Try the other sauce here.
The other sauce is just a traditional sauce out of a jar.
Oh, okay.
I just thought I had too much going on to make it this time. And I've never really found one made from scratch that I really, really like. I'm still messing with that recipe.
Well, I like this, now what do you call this? The
A black bean salad.
Black bean salad. Let's taste it.
It's pretty good. It's very different, but it's very good, and it's rich in protein and iron.
I like it.
I like the taste of it. Y'all like it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try it with some of this
haven't tried the
sour cream.
Try it with your dip, too.
Okay. It's a little different. Try it with the
Did you try the salsa?
with the salsa and the three the.
One of these days, I'm going to make a con queso or a salsa by adding this to that. Have you
Awesome.
tasted the two together? It's really good.
Yeah, I've been trying different ways here. Tell me what all's in this salad.
Black beans that have been drained and washed, 3 different kinds of peppers, 2 different kinds of onions, just a touch of garlic, and then jalapenos.
Is there any vinegar in it?
No. I let the sauce and the jalapenos act as your dressing.
I see. I got a little taste of the hot pepper type.
And to beat it all, there are jalapenos in the chili con queso too.
The two sauce.
Hannah, how do you like your dip there? Is it pretty good? Good.
She likes anything Mexican. She loves it.
Yeah, it worked out great.
Well, guys, I'm going to take a bite of my cornbread. This also has jalapenos in it.
Okay. Well, Hannah, what grade are you in?
4th.
4th grade. Great. Then you go to Golly Bridge. Golly Bridge.
She participated in the county social studies fair this past fall or winter.
Oh, what was your project?
History of West Virginia.
Well, that's a good project.
She was actually wanting to do it. I think that she didn't try as hard as she wished she would have. And then when she got there, she really wanted to win. So she was thinking she would do one on the Glen Ferris Inn next year if she could.
Well, that's good. I have gone to archives and have got a pile of information like this that I'm making a scrapbook out of. So
That's
we
what I
can go
told her.
through it.
She's got some good resources.
Yeah.
at hand.
The connections.
Guys, there's so much here to eat. I'm almost going to fill up out of the
Oh, you
salad
gotta
part.
save some room for that Mexican chicken. Teresa, have you ever had Mexican chicken here?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I like the grilled chicken from here.
That cornbread is really, really good. I like the taste of
Got
that.
it.
It's real good.
Mexican chicken beans and Mexican rice.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you will need to taste the chicken first.
Okay.
I insist. Thank you, Alyssa.
Well, it looks really, really good.
Someone lost her knife.
Well, it should be tender enough to cut without. Now, what makes it Mexican? Did you catch this chicken in Mexico?
I did. And then I drowned it in ranch dressing, salsa, and pepper jack cheese.
Ah, very tasty.
Well, thank you. Now, the recipe for the rice is your sister's.
I see. Very good.
That
That is
rice
very
is really hot.
You said the rice is hot?
You have to be careful to
Just a
burn it.
little touch of hot to it.
As in temperature hot. I think all it has is peppers and onions. There's no habaneros or whatever in them.
Well, my oldest sister was married to Greg Rodriguez, which is Mexican Texan, and their families was in Texas before Texas became a state. And she learned to make a lot of Mexican type foods. And my other sister, Carolyn.
Well, this is Carolyn's recipe.
Oh, this is Carolyn's. Okay, Carolyn married Serafine Guevara, the Che Guevara heir. If you know your history of Che Guevara, that's our Mexican connection to the family. And I have several nephews that are Mexican, so, and nieces.
I cooked the chicken a little too long and cooked some of the sauce off of it, but I think it's still good.
It is good.
It is good.
I think the beans could have used a little bit of salt.
Yeah. I salted them when I was cooking them.
In case you need.
You know, when I was cooking the raw beans into cooked beans.
Uh-huh.
And then you refry them and add all of this other ingredients to it. And I thought I'd put enough salt in it.
Well, tastes good.
You can always add more salt.
You can't take it away.
Right.
It's true.
Lettuce is good. Did it come from Mexico? I think they did, didn't they? Didn't they say that California?
No, they're getting it from Texas
Oh,
now.
from Texas.
Probably.
But I'm glad they learned to cook a little different and give us a little variety to the cooking and the
That is
taste.
true. I enjoy an international dinner. When Dan and I were first married, or shortly thereafter, once a month, I would fix him a themed dinner. Unfortunately, all I could do was Mexican, Italian, and I dabbled in Chinese at that point, but
So it was more quarterly than it was monthly.
monthly true.
Was he less picky then?
No.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
She's picking at you.
Okay. Well, Becky, what are we having for dessert and how did you make it?
Well, everyone knows what a burrito is and how they make the burrito. You make your filling and you fold your tortilla over it and roll it up like a log, and then you either bake it or deep fry it.
Okay. And that's usually with meat.
That's generally with a meat or a combination of stuff.
I see.
We're fixing, what are we fixing? Caramel apple burrito with ice cream and caramel sauce.
Okay. So what do? You put apples in the center and wrap it up and then cook it?
Well, I par-cooked the apples because I didn't want to, I don't care for it if it's baked too much. I like that crispiness you get when
Yeah.
it's fried.
Okay, so we're frying it,
And
not
I
baking.
didn't want to fry it long enough for the apples raw to get done, and I didn't want to eat them raw. So I parboiled it, drained a lot of the liquid off, and then I put a thickener in it, and then the caramel.
Okay.
And for the caramel, I just bought bag after bag after bag of caramels and
Oh, my
melted it in.
goodness. So I can just imagine this thing being huge.
No, it's not too big, because I only made about 3 cups.
Okay, all right.
And then on the caramel sauce, I used the caramels again.
Caramel apple burrito.
Burrito.
Okay.
With ice cream.
Thank you.
And homemade caramel sauce.
Thank you.
Did we get the apples in Mexico?
I don't know.
Okay,
We got them at Kroger's.
all right. Well, let's try and see what this tastes like.
I tried the ice cream with caramel sauce first, see how that goes.
Caramel and ice cream's gotta be good.
It is.
Are they hot?
They should be.
Oh, boy.
And crispy, that's why I didn't bake them. I wanted them crispy.
You want them crispy, huh?
Yes, I do.
They're good.
You like it?
Maybe too much caramel in it. What do you think, Teresa?
No, they're good. She said this is awesome.
One of my-
Awesome's awful close to
Well, thank
awful.
you, Hannah.
But it's really good. It's very tasty.
We have a lot of people buy them on Mexitex night.
Oh, I bet. If you have one, you'll like it, and you'll want it again. Well, it's very good.
It is, it's real good.
Well, thank you very much. Burnt caramel.
Hannah, you like it?
Yep.
Good, good.
She likes fried apples really well.
Well, this is almost like fried apples, just no butter and cinnamon.
Oh, I knew there was something missing. You didn't put cinnamon in it?
No,
Well, I would have thought you did know that.
They don't use cinnamon over there.
Oh,
I don't think cinnamon was indigenous to Mexico.
oh, I'm sure it is. Well, Becky, you've done it again. You've made another great meal for me and my guests, and I really appreciate the hard work you do
Well, thank you very much.
this week. You're still on trial for next week, but
Well, next week I have a party every morning, and I have to be here before 7 every day.
oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah,
That gives you something to do.
it does, it does.
All right.
Bye, we'll see you next week.